Welcome back to BaldHeaded Metal, guys. My name is Joseph. Today, I want to do something different. I've reacted to a bunch of songs you requested, and you kind of see me react to different genres of heavy metal. But now I think it's time for you to see maybe some of the bands I like. And I'm going to give you my top 10, my favorite metal bands of all time, with my number 10 band being a technical death metal band coming out of Texas, Nile. Nile, for those who are not aware, is like an Egyptian-infused technical death metal band, and they're just absolutely brutal. So much so it took me quite a while to get into them, because at first I just thought it was noise, and the more I gave them a chance, the more it clicked with me, and the more I realized how intricate their music is, how crazy their solos and riffing is, and drumming, everything. There is no weak link in this band. They just absolutely kill it, especially anything from their album in 2002, In Their Darkened Shrines, all the way to their latest album in 2019, Vile Nihilistic Rites, with my standout albums being Annihilation of the Wicked and Those Who the Gods Detest. This band is just on a different playing field for me. Now, on number 9, we got Amon Amarth. Now, anybody who's into melodic death metal, I believe, will know this band. But I was obsessed, I'm still obsessed with Viking culture, watching shows and movies and documentaries. There's some kind of an obsession that I always had with them, and they always had that image with those long beards and long hair. You know, they just had this very intimidating presence coming out of Sweden. I've always loved this band, with my favorite album being One Son from the Golden Hall, but also loved the Twilight of the Thunder God and Surtur Rising. They were just the band, I think, of the 2000s in the melodic death metal genre. I really, like, everybody was just listening to them, and I've seen them live like 6 or 7 times and loved them every single time. Had some of the most epic mosh pits going to their concerts. At number 8, I got Sepultura. Now, if you don't know who this band is, you must have been living under a rock. It's a Brazilian thrash metal band with Igor and Max Cavalera, Andres Kisser, and their albums Beneath the Remains, Arise, Chaos AD are just absolute classics. Even Roots, which had this kind of new metal sound, which a lot of people credit being the beginning of new metal, they all had something different to offer. And Schizophrenia, they've always been on a simpler side in terms of their music writing, but they had such addictive and unique riffs, and their aggression in their music is what I've always been drawn to. And I love those Brazilian drumming infused moments where Igor would come out and just kind of give it that little flavor that made them really stand out above others in my eyes. Going on to number 7, we're gonna go to a band, again, shouldn't be a surprise by anybody because I've already did an album recommendation for this band, is Death. Now, I actually don't like the whole category of death. I don't like the beginning, their pure death metal sound. I mean, it's okay, like Pestilence and Spiritual Healing. I like those albums. But what puts it on this list for me is just 3 albums: Individual Thought Patterns, Symbolic, and Sound of Perseverance. Because first of all, what I believe they're one of the first ones to do melodic death metal, and Chuck Schuldiner just had this really complex way of writing music, and the really unusual drumming and bass kind of guitar, like the way the music was written, it has so much texture, so much depth, that after so many years going back to those albums, I'm still finding new things within each of the songs in each one of those albums and appreciating it more and more and more. And I think what he's done in the short-lived band that he had there before he passed away is unmatched by some bands who've been in the business for 20-30 years. They've just never been able to reach those heights that Chuck Schuldiner has reached with Death, and they're always going to have this special place in my heart. Now, going to another band, again, I did a recommendation for. It's the uniqueness of this band that always got my attention, and that's Melechesh. Melechesh is a black metal, Sumerian, Middle Eastern infused band with thrash elements in there. And I like their sound because they're playing Sumerian Middle Eastern music in their heavy metal sound, with the drumming of more Middle Eastern kind of themed going on as well, with their albums Sphinx, Emissaries, The Epigenesis, Enki. As they progressed in their career, they became more and more, I would say, folky and more Middle Eastern sounding, and I've just loved it more and more. They just kind of got their own unique sound. I've tried to find bands that were like them, and I could never find one. They are an absolutely unique band. They're a very niche band, you know. How many people are going to listen to a black metal band that has summarily Middle Eastern music in it? It's kind of a small niche, but I've always loved them. And it's something I've discovered from my brother, actually. And it took me a little bit to get into, because I thought at first they were a little bit simplistic. But when I realized how they, for example, they don't have extremely intricate riffing, but it's the layers that they build on top in their music and how many different things are going on, and the interesting progressions in the music is where I think they win me over. I even like their earlier albums like Sphinx, which is just a pure death metal, more pure black metal album, and it just absolutely kills. At number 5, I got Slayer. Now, I think what Slayer did with From Rain and Blood, South of Heaven, Seasoned Abyss, they set the standard for thrash metal. Rain and Blood is still my favorite thrash metal album of all time. It's just they have a very short amount of albums that I like, which is why they're not higher up on this list. Because like Diablos and Musica, God Hates Us All, Repentless, they're good albums, but it was kind of like, they're not groundbreaking. But the amount of innovation that was in their music, the double harmonies with their guitars, and Dave Lombardo, when he was back in the, in the band, what he was able to do with his band on Seasons in the Abyss is just an absolute peak of thrash metal band in many ways. And I love Slayer. Slayer is, again, they have the aggression, they have the melodic side to them. I've always kind of looked for the both of them. I don't like just pure aggression. I don't necessarily like when it's just pure melodic kind of neoclassical sound. I've always kind of tried to find this balance. And talking about, thrash metal, now my number 4 band is Exodus. I've talked about Exodus and how much I love them. I've actually discovered them late in their career, their resurgence in 2004 with Temple of the Damned and Shovel-Headed Kill Machine, Atrocity Exhibition A and B, which I love both of them. Their remake of their Let There Be Blood by the Bonded by Blood album, and Blood In Blood Out. I just like the Exodus sound for thrash metal. I like their long, epic 9-minute thrash metal songs. I love that they've always kept their aggression and their speed, with Tom Hunting just on the drums, just absolutely killing it. I like their attitude. Gary Holt is an absolute killer when it comes to writing music. I know people kind of make fun of him that he writes songs that are a little bit too long. I happen not to think so. I like their music. I like some of their old albums too, like Bonded by Blood and Fabulous Disaster, but I typically stick to their later part, their resurgence of their career, and I just love thrash metal. Thrash metal is my favorite genre of heavy metal, and they, again, are pretty high up on this list for me of my top metal bands. My number 3 is another band I've talked about, and that's Immortal. But I'm going to do a little bit of cheating here. I'm going to include basically what I think Immortal is. It's the band Immortal, the side project Abbath when he went solo, and even Demonaz. They all have a very similar sound to what Immortal began, and that's this black metal, thrash metal infused music genre kind of thing going on, with At the Heart of Winter and Sons of Northern Darkness being the absolute peak for me. And I love the side project Between Worlds and Demonaz. I love Abbath's 2 albums. They've offered to me the introduction to black metal. That was when I first got into black metal with Sons of Northern Darkness, the song One by One, and Within the Dark Mind, Tyrants. Those songs really got me into it because they were very moody, very dark, and very atmospheric, and I enjoyed those moments in time where they would go from that traditional blast beats or very quick riffing of black metal and to go to these very thrashy moments. And I think that's what really attracted me to them. And I love how they've introduced even more classic rock and melodic elements in Between Worlds and All Shall Fall album and Abbath's 2 albums. They've gotten a lot more intricate with their songwriting as they went on, but I love their albums At the Heart of Winter and Sons of Northern Darkness, probably my 2 favorite in their career. And I've done everything they've done for black metal. It places the importance of this band is just, it's on a different level. Plus I love the quirky attitude of Abbath, their vocalist and guitarist. He just doesn't take himself seriously. It's, I think, partially why I like this band so much. Now, at number 2, I can't tell you how many times I have listened to this band's albums over and over, up and down, and it's just shame what happened to this band, how much they got fucked over by different labels, and that's Bolt Thrower. It's a death metal band coming out of England. Holy fuck, if you've never listened to Bolt Thrower, they on the surface sound extremely simple in their music. Doesn't seem like they have very intricate riffing or anything like that, but that unique setup for their sound, the way they sound on albums, and they're super addictive riffing, and the way they even write their music. I don't think anybody writes the music the way they do. There's one band, Jungle Rot, that kind of copied that sound, but I think Bolt Thrower just did it so much better. Every album this band released, I think, is a classic. They do not even have a mediocre album. Every album they released, especially those ones, Loyal, Mercenary, For the Victory, War Master, I love everything about this band. I cannot, every time I put their music on, I can't help but just start headbanging automatically. As a matter of fact, it might be my most listened to band ever, is Bolt Thrower, right next to my #1 band, which is Iced Earth. It's the only power metal band that I have on this list, but it's also my favorite band of all time. Now, there's one thing to be said about this band. Everything they did after Horror Show for me is basically garbage, and that's like 5 albums. Mainly because John Schaefer just kind of went fucking ballistic and crazy. He's like this crazy conspiracy theorist. He got arrested in when he was one of the people who stormed Washington DC, the White House. He's kind of like really cuckoo kind of a person, but I can't take away how much I love Iced Earth, from their first album Iced Earth all the way to Horror Show, and I got into with their albums The Dark Saga, Burnt Offerings, and it's just absolute favorite album from these guys, if not one of my favorite albums of all time, with the Dante's Inferno, that epic 15-minute song. He's just, I love that. First of all, Matt Barlow is my favorite vocalist of all time. I'm not saying he's the best. Like, I understand there's better sounding or more skilled perhaps vocalists out there, but Matt Barlow for me just has the perfect balance of vulnerability, harshness in his voice, and just pure like power metal sound that I would want. And their albums have just a great combination of thrash metal and power metal, having really epic and long and very kind of complex songs to having very basic and just going for you juggler kind of songs like Violator or Violate. I love Iced Earth. I know a lot of people kind of criticize me on this channel actually for liking this band, but I'm never gonna turn away from it. I just, the amount of times also Bolt Thrower and Iced Earth that I've listened to, it's unfathomable. Especially the album The Dark Saga, Burnt Offerings, and Horror Show. As a matter of fact, if there's any fans on this channel who listen to Nightwish and you really want another power metal band, check out their album Horror Show, because it's an absolutely fantastic power metal album. And I mostly don't like power metal because of that neoclassical, very cheesy sounding power metal. And Iced Earth always managed to stay away from that, despite being about fantasy elements and fantasy stories, or singing about various novels and kind of creatures from different literature. I think Iced Earth just always had this. I think why I like them so much, they maintain that rawness while still being a power metal band, that thrash metal side of them, right? And that's my top 10. That's my top 10 favorite bands of all time. I would like for you guys to tell me what your top 10 metal bands of all time are. You can give me a critique of what you think of the bands I've listed here. Maybe some of them are in your list, or maybe none of them are. It's just an interesting conversation just to see everybody's tastes are so different, and these are mine. And hopefully, guys, you enjoyed this video. Comment down below with your top 10 and let me know what you thought of this video. You want to see more videos like this, and keep it metal out there. Enjoy the rest of your day.